And then it became like, I will elbow everyone out of the way to play the part.
Okay, this is wild. You are not gonna believe what just leaked. Rachel Zegler, yeah, the Snow White star, just got exposed in the worst way imaginable. Private messages, brutal insults, straight up roasting the Disney fans who literally built her career. And now, the internet is on fire. We're talking real screenshots, verified usernames, and a group chat that's blowing up timelines left and right. It's not some rumor. This has receipts. And what she said? Man, it might be the moment her career flipped upside down. Because once you diss the fans, especially Disney fans, there's no coming back. But here's the craziest part. We know who leaked it. And once you see how deep this betrayal goes, it'll change how you see everything. Let's break this down.
People will assume it's a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie, Andrew Burnap. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
From the shady screenshots and PR meltdowns to the TikTok backlash, box office disaster, and the industry-wide panic Rachel Zegler just triggered. This isn't just a scandal, it's the start of something way bigger. Let's get into it.
I say, if I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
It started with a few blurry screenshots. No context, no confirmation, just whispers floating around on X that someone in Rachel Zegler's inner circle had leaked messages from a private group chat. At first, it looked too wild to be real. Fans thought, no way she actually said that. But then the usernames started matching. The writing style? Spot on. And suddenly, those blurry screenshots weren't blurry anymore. They were damning. What was in them? Straight up disrespect.
He absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Rachel allegedly called Disney superfans low IQ, said they were cringe-obsessed, and even mocked them for dressing up at the parks. One message read, "They cry at fireworks and parade floats. I can't tell if they need therapy or a restraining order." Another, even worse. When asked if she was going to the Snow White fan premiere in Anaheim, she allegedly said, "Please, I'd rather eat glass than smile at another sweaty dad in a dwarf costume."
I'm a narcissist.
That one hit hard, because for Disney fans, especially the diehards, it's not just cosplay. It's identity, it's community, and being mocked by the very star headlining the remake? That felt personal. Within hours, those screenshots had been reposted tens of thousands of times. The hashtags took over. Not my Snow White, replace Rachel, ungrateful, and worse. And it wasn't just random trolls. These were the same people who show up at every premiere, buy the merch, plan family trips to Disneyland. They were done.
Original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
But the story was just getting started, so who leaked it? That's where things get even messier. According to insider reports, this wasn't some random hacker or online troll. The leak allegedly came from someone inside Rachel's own friend circle, someone who had been in the group chat for months. And the twist? They weren't just reading the messages, they were screen recording everything.
Here's a story from Variety. Disney scales back Snow White Hollywood premiere amid Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot controversies. Now, this is the lighter headline.
Sources say it was a former PR assistant turned influencer, someone who had grown tired of Rachel's attitude behind the scenes. They'd reportedly been on the receiving end of her diva moments for a while. And this leak? It wasn't an accident. It was personal. One tipster told Pop Culture Now that Rachel had been talking down to this person for months. They felt disrespected, used, and dismissed. And the moment they saw how she was trashing the very fans who supported her rise, they hit record.
How Rachel Zegler disrespected the original, and a classic from Walt Disney, something that completely saved Disney and changed the company and changed animation in general.
But here's the part that really blew up. One screenshot showed Rachel allegedly mocking the Anaheim premiere, not just brushing it off, but mocking the actual people attending. The same people who waited in line, dressed up as characters, and bought tickets to support her. That specific line, about sweaty dads in dwarf costumes, was the last straw. The betrayal felt surgical, calculated, like the leaker knew exactly which messages would hit the hardest.
Please?
For which movie?
And they were right. That one message alone was shared over 100,000 times within 24 hours. By then, the damage was irreversible. Rachel Zegler wasn't just dealing with backlash. She was at the center of a digital mutiny. And if you thought things couldn't spiral faster, just wait. Once that leak hit the mainstream, the fan base didn't just react, they erupted. Disney adults, park regulars, cosplayers, even former child stars who grew up on Disney magic started weighing in. The internet became a battlefield overnight, and Rachel Zegler was the bullseye. The message that set it all off, "I'd rather eat glass than smile at another sweaty dad in a dwarf costume," spread like wildfire.
Let's address the elephant in the room. I'm the hottest person in the world.
People weren't just offended, they were furious. Entire communities that once celebrated Rachel for being a fresh face in Hollywood suddenly flipped. Fan pages deleted her photos. Reddit threads turned brutal. Fan accounts that used to praise her performances, now calling her the most ungrateful casting choice in Disney history.
Studio released their Snow White remake starring Rachel Zegler, and in the process shattered more little girls' dreams than Harvey Weinstein.
TikTok creators with millions of followers started posting dramatic readings of the leaked messages, pairing them with sad Disney music and captions like, "This is who they cast as Snow White?" One post racked up over 3 million views in a single day. It didn't stop there. Theme park vloggers, usually the most apolitical, brand-safe creators on the internet, jumped into the drama. Some made entire videos condemning Rachel's alleged comments. Others posted from Disneyland, showing off dwarf costumes with the caption, "Guess I need therapy or a restraining order now." And the hashtags? Still climbing. Not My Snow White trended for 3 straight days.
Of the film decided to sit in an empty theater so she can watch her name flash on the screen as she squealed that her film was #1 for 6 days.
Even the fan-made merch turned savage. T-shirts, mugs, and tote bags started popping up online with phrases like "Eat glass," "Rachel," and "Disney adults deserve better." Some Etsy sellers were reportedly making thousands off the backlash alone. This wasn't just a Twitter moment anymore. It was a cultural rejection. And while all of this was happening in real time, Rachel? Completely silent. And that made everything worse. As the backlash reached a boiling point, the one person everyone was waiting to hear from said absolutely nothing. No statement, no apology, not even a vague tweet, just radio silence. And in Hollywood, that's not just unusual, it's strategic. At first, fans assumed she was planning her response. Maybe her lawyers were drafting a denial, or Disney's PR team was prepping damage control. But then something strange happened. Rachel briefly liked a post defending her, only to unlike it hours later after fans started tagging Disney's official account, demanding her removal from the film. That single move, like, unlike, vanish, only fueled more speculation. Was she watching the backlash from behind the scenes? Was Disney forcing her to stay quiet? Or was she just hoping it would all blow over? Whatever the plan was, it didn't work.
Rachel Zegler was a bad decision from day one. She can sing, I'll give her that, but she's got a lot of power, but absolutely no range. Plus, on the flip side, she can't act, and she's a smug big mouth, which even Disney now admits they couldn't control.
Because behind the scenes, things weren't calm. According to studio insiders, Disney executives were furious, not just at the scandal, but at the timing. Snow White had already been bleeding at the box office, and this controversy, it felt like a final nail in the coffin. One insider told BuzzPop Weekly, "You can criticize the studio. You can even criticize the script, but you never go after the fans." Internally, it was chaos. The marketing team pointed fingers at Rachel's press appearances. Rachel's camp blamed the studio for not stepping in sooner. Legal was reviewing contracts. Publicists were scrambling. And investors? They were demanding answers. Meanwhile, YouTubers were dropping reaction videos by the hour. TikTok was a war zone. And Disney's biggest 2025 release was now being referred to online as the most cursed remake in studio history. But if you thought silence was Rachel's biggest misstep, you haven't seen what she posted next.
God forbid a woman dream about true love. We're all just sitting around here, oh, maybe I could be president one day. I hate men, I just want to be president.
Just when people thought Rachel Zegler couldn't make things worse, she posted a TikTok. It was supposed to be clever, a little tongue-in-cheek moment to lighten the mood. The video shows her walking into a theater, dressed casually, holding Snow White-themed merch, popcorn buckets, branded drinks, the whole deal. She struts up to the counter and flashes a confident smile. Then the punchline hits. She asks for a ticket, and the theater employee responds, deadpan, "For which movie?" The camera lingers on her face just long enough to capture that awkward pause. Her smile falters, just for a second. She forces a laugh, tries to play it off. But the internet? It wasn't laughing with her. What was meant to be a cheeky, self-aware joke came off as smug, cringy, and wildly out of touch. People flooded the comments calling it a desperation move, unfunny, and the worst PR stunt since Cats. One top comment said, "You mocked your fans, bombed your movie, and now you're making skits like nothing happened? Brutal." Instead of showing humility, the video made it seem like she was mocking the backlash, mocking the very flop that had people so upset in the first place. Critics said she looked like she was laughing at the failure, not learning from it. And at a time when theaters were literally empty and fans were demanding accountability, that wasn't just tone deaf, it was reputational suicide. Worse still, the video got stitched and roasted into oblivion. TikTok creators added sarcastic captions, dramatic zoom-ins, and yikes overlays. YouTubers made breakdowns. Meme accounts ran wild with it. In less than 24 hours, the skit became its own viral fail. Not because it was funny, but because it proved what people feared most, that Rachel Zegler just didn't get it. And the popcorn buckets? The branded merch? The exaggerated poses and smug grin? They weren't quirky anymore. They were props in a PR circus, and she was the punchline. But if you think that was rock bottom, wait until you hear what this film actually cost Disney.
Disney just spent over $250 million for a fairy tale hand grenade that went over budget, got reshot twice, replaced real actors with 7 CGI serial killers.
Let's talk numbers, because for Disney, this wasn't just a bad press week. It was a full-scale financial disaster. The live-action Snow White reportedly cost around $250 million to make. Add another $150 million in global marketing and reshoots, and you're looking at a movie that needed to clear $1 billion just to be considered a win. But opening weekend? Only $43 million. By the second week, it dropped over 66%. Word of mouth was toxic. And the backlash wasn't just online anymore. It was showing up at the box office in real time. Globally, the film struggled to crawl past $140 million. And even that's being generous.
Rachel Zegler is a loudmouth dope.
No, I've been getting a lot of questions about, how do I feel? Let's address the elephant in the room.
This wasn't just a flop. It was a catastrophic loss. Industry insiders started calling it Disney's Titanic. Not in the blockbuster way, but in the ship going down fast way. Even international markets, which usually help soften domestic flops, weren't biting. The film's new, empowered angle didn't translate well overseas, and critics everywhere were dragging it for being soulless, preachy, and, above all, joyless. And here's the kicker. Many believed it could have survived the creative risks if the star leading it hadn't alienated the fan base before the movie even came out. Rachel's viral interviews, the leaked messages, the TikTok flops, it all created a perfect storm. And instead of rallying audiences, Disney watched their tentpole release implode under the weight of its own controversy. Worse still, theaters were practically empty. Reports surfaced of showings with less than 10 people. Some cinemas even began pulling the film from prime slots early, giving up screen time to lower-budget films that were actually turning profits. And while all this unfolded publicly, Disney execs were scrambling behind closed doors. Investors were demanding explanations. Marketing heads were being reassigned. And Rachel? She was still radio silent, but the damage was done, and it was about to get even messier. Because next, the scandal went political, and it dragged more stars into the fire. Just when things couldn't possibly spiral any further, the drama took a political turn.
We challenge hate when we face it, but we do it with love while always striving to make the world a better place.
And this time, it wasn't just Rachel Zegler in the spotlight, it was Gal Gadot, too. See, Gal played the evil queen in Snow White, and while her performance was already being slammed online, stiff delivery, odd line reads, weird facial expressions, what fans didn't know was that things behind the scenes were just as awkward. Rumors began swirling about tension between Rachel and Gal during filming. At first, it sounded like typical celebrity gossip, until people started digging deeper. Turns out, right around the same time, Rachel made a now-deleted post expressing support for Palestine. Gal, an outspoken Israeli actress with military ties, was going quiet online. Very quiet. Suddenly, fans started connecting dots. Whispers about on-set frostiness, awkward red carpet moments, press interviews where they avoided eye contact or didn't appear together at all. Then came the side-by-side clips. TikToks showing Rachel making bold political statements while Gal looked visibly uncomfortable next to her in earlier interviews. Whether it was intentional or not, the narrative had taken shape. Disney's Snow White wasn't just a creative flop, it was a ticking time bomb. And things only got worse when Rachel fired off a series of political posts unrelated to the film, calling certain voter groups dangerous, and suggesting some people shouldn't be allowed near power ever again. That's all it took. Conservative creators and commentators online pounced. X exploded. Influencers accused her of alienating half the country.
And this one's actually kind of funny. And that is, most people have been complaining that the evil witch who is jealous of Snow White's beauty is substantially more attractive than Snow White.
Some said she was playing into corporate feminism, while others mocked her for being more interested in activism than acting. Even John Lennon's son chimed in, calling Rachel a disconnected brat and telling fans to stop supporting fake royalty. And as the political firestorm built, Disney said nothing. No statements, no distancing, just the same silence that had now become its own controversy. Meanwhile, Rachel's name was trending for all the wrong reasons, again. And instead of Snow White being a global cultural reset, it had become a symbol of everything fans hated about modern Hollywood.
Look at this one. So many people here to watch Snow White. To be fair, this clip right here actually was from a video where they show the screen and then show the audience is empty.
But this fallout wasn't just about Rachel anymore, because her collapse was triggering shockwaves across the entire industry. At this point, it wasn't just about one movie, it was about what this movie exposed. Behind the scenes, Hollywood was rattled. Executives across multiple studios, not just Disney, were reportedly having emergency meetings. Scripts were being pulled, casting decisions reevaluated, entire projects shelved. Because Snow White didn't just bomb, it signaled that audiences were done. Done with tone-deaf reboots, done with preachy messaging, done with being talked down to by actors who seemed more interested in going viral than telling a story. Sources inside Disney told Variety that other remakes, like Lilo and Stitch, and even the next Toy Story installment, were being reworked quietly, not canceled, but retooled. Why? Because nobody wanted another Snow White situation. One insider even said, "The mandate is clear now. No more lectures. No more alienating the audience." And it wasn't just the scripts getting a second look, it was the faces attached to them.
Everyone who hates when I win. The winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her.
Rumors swirled that Rachel had been quietly removed from early casting shortlists for major projects, including Toy Story 5, the Pirates of the Caribbean reboot, and several streaming originals under the Disney Plus brand. Studios were spooked. Casting directors started whispering about the Zegler effect, a term used to describe the risk of placing controversial or overly vocal talent at the center of expensive IP. Because now, thanks to this meltdown, the formula had been rewritten. If the audience doesn't like the lead, the movie dies. And Rachel's downfall became a case study, not just in what not to say during a press tour, but in how quickly a career can fall apart when your message alienates the very people you're trying to reach. It wasn't just a failed film anymore. It was a warning shot across all of Hollywood. But for Rachel, the fallout wasn't theoretical. It was personal.
Corporate press, still woke as they are playing this game where they're like, a bunch of toxic people. That's what they're saying in Variety.
And in the final chapter of this collapse, we look at what's left of her career and whether there's any chance she makes it out of this alive. Rachel Zegler was supposed to be Disney's next queen, a fresh face, a symbol of the studio's new era. But now, she's ruling over ruins. The backlash hasn't just damaged her public image, it's scorched her entire brand. Industry insiders are already labeling her a risky hire. Casting directors, agents, and even PR firms have allegedly blacklisted her from tentpole projects. Studio execs don't want to gamble on someone who might turn press tours into minefields. She's been quietly removed from campaigns, scrubbed from trailers, and, according to some reports, dropped from future Disney deals entirely. And while her fans still defend her in comment sections, the silence from Rachel herself says it all. No interviews, no clarifications, no comeback tour, just a complete shutdown. And in Hollywood, that's the sound of a career in critical condition. It's not just that Snow White bombed, it's why it bombed. Because Rachel didn't just challenge tradition, she mocked it. She didn't just take a risk, she took a sledgehammer to the story's soul. And when the audience pushed back, she smirked. She posted skits. She turned criticism into content. And that's when people walked away. Hollywood doesn't forget moments like this. And while some actors bounce back from controversy, others become cautionary tales. Right now, Rachel's not being pitched as the next big thing. She's being studied as a what went wrong, a walking PR disaster, a $400 million lesson in what happens when you bet on buzz instead of heart. Because in the end, audiences didn't want a lecture. They wanted a fairy tale. And when they didn't get it, They wrote their own ending. An ending where the crown doesn't go to the loudest voice in the room, but to the one who still remembers why we fell in love with these stories in the first place.